Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of One on One with Courtney Starks. And I thank you all for being here. Joining me today is someone that I really, truly look up to. And if you guys know, I have manifested this. I manifested this interview and this conversation. TV host and actor Mike Hill is joining us today. King, when I say manifestation is real, bro, I mean it. We have been talking about having you on our show for 2 seasons, and just getting the timing right. So I'm honored to have you. Thank you for being here.
I'm honored to be here, King. Thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I had opportunity way back to kind of read through your bio and get a chance to know about you. And what I didn't know was that you are a veteran. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about all of the workload that you have on a resume. And to add to that, it's an Air Force reservist. Thank you for your service. I didn't really, when I say it shocked me, I was like, no way, my kid's not, I know my kid, that's my cousin. No.
Yeah, man.
So talk to us about your experience as a veteran and how those experiences helped to shape your career as a broadcaster.
Oh, it's big, man. The military gave me my first lesson in being part of a unit. It gave me a big lesson in organization. It gave me a big lesson in timeliness. I'm always on time for everything. I still hold on to some of those things. I spent 6 years in the military, been to the Philippines, was in Hawaii, did some stops in Japan, Korea, a little bit here, Japan. Then I went to Fort Meade, Maryland. Last 3 years at the NSA, so I had a top secret clearance. So I don't know how I got a top secret clearance. I don't know who the hell they talked to in my family to get me a top secret clearance, but this was before 9/11, so maybe it wasn't as stringent as it is now, but I got in. And it shaped my life, man. So I know at the time when I went into the military, I wasn't quite ready for college at that time, even though I was a good student. I just wasn't disciplined enough, and it gave me that discipline I need that I still use today.
Man, that's good. You've also been involved in film and theater acting, production, company ownership, and voiceover work. Yeah. So for you, I gotta ask you, what has been your favorite role so far?
Wow. My favorite role, I would say I've had a couple of shows that have my name on it. And anytime you can have ownership of any show that has your name on it, that's your baby. That belongs to you. So somebody gave you a platform and entrusted you with a show that has your name on it. That means you carry it. So I had a show on Fox called America's Pregame, which I really enjoyed. I enjoyed doing that when I first got to FS1 and Fox, and just had a really good time doing that. And I had a couple of talk shows too. I had a show on Fox Soul, the Mike and Donnie show, and Start Your Day with Sharon and Mike on BNC. So those are three right there, just off the top of my head. But then I also did a show on Netflix called Hyperdrive, which was a great experience. It was a competition, reality type show, racing show. But it was good. I made some good friendships that I still have to this day. And it was just good to be on that type of platform. So it's kind of hard to put down. One is almost asking me who my favorite kid is. I know who my favorite kid is. Sometimes I just don't want to disclose. I'm not like Brian.
I hear you. As someone who has a background in journalism, and by the way, y'all, he also at one point got like Journalist of the Year. So when I talk about my man, is great. He's great.
Yeah.
What drew you to the world of sports broadcasting?
Oh, wow. So I knew I wasn't going to play ball at an early age. I knew, I wanted to be just like a lot of those other people out there. I wanted to play ball, wanted to play basketball or football, but then I went out there and played, and I realized, it ain't going to work out for me. You know what I'm saying? That probably ain't going to work out for me. So how can I stay in sports and still do something I really love?
Yeah.
And was always drawn to journalism. I had a teacher in the 10th grade who told me to join journalism class. And I just kind of fell in love with it. I enjoyed storytelling, finding out about people, just, summarizing something, an event or a story that I've seen or whatever, and being able to present that to the people in a very, very entertaining and informative way. And even now, so it's been wonderful, man. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, from my next question would be, and this is related to me, right? I am not the biggest sports enthusiast. I'm just not, unless it intersects with what I got to do here, or like if I'm watching one of my favorite players or something like that, or I'm the bandwagon man, right? So I'm gonna wait to get to the playoffs or whatever, and then I got to pick a team. I'm never like pre-gaming, you know what I mean? So how do you approach covering sports in a way that resonates with sports enthusiasts and those who may not typically like sports?
That's a really good question. I think that's the best way to do it. If you can find that chemistry, if you can find that ingredient, those right ingredients to do that, I think you fall into a realm that a lot of sportscasters don't have out there. And I think that's what relatable. I think that's what gets you more and more fans. One of you talked about being the journalist of the year. One of my favorite honors was something that happened in a local newspaper in Nashville, and in Fresno, where they did these polls in the newspapers. Yeah, they had newspapers back then. And like your favorite sportscaster for people who don't like sports. And I was always chosen. And I think the answer to the question is to find a way to make sports entertaining, but also understandable for people who don't like sports. Find ways to tell stories about things like human interest stories. I always, when I did my packages and my stories, always went out and found somebody who had overcome something that even though they played sports, it was something that transcended beyond the world of sports and other people could relate to. So if you can find ways to explain sports terms in a jargon in which non-sports fans will understand, but at the same time still get the respect from the sports fans, that's the best. I've been able to do that for like 28, 29 years.
Come on, God. Come on, man. That's great, right? So in addition to sports, I heard that you love watching movies. And once again, what connected us was when I heard that it was Friday. I'm like, this is what we got to be related. God, come on, stop playing with me. But you also like reading biographical novels. So let's talk about your book. Open Mic. What was the inspiration behind that?
I needed to. If I didn't write that book, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. It was the therapy I've ever had in my life. I had some therapy before, but I never embraced it. But I had a lot on my soul, my heart, my mind. I had a lot of stuff that was going on that I had suppressed for so many years, a lot of trauma in my life, a lot of childhood trauma that I didn't even know existed because I really had forgotten about it. It was a point in my life where I felt happy in a sense because I was smiling and everybody thought I was the life of the party. My life came to looking at it from paper, professional standpoint. Personally, I was doing all right and all that type of stuff like that, making money and all that. But I would go home at night and I would cry and I didn't know why. And I was like, man, what's going on? I need to get checked out. Am I losing testosterone? All that type of stuff. What was happening, man? And then there was a voice, and voices is all, and I know it's the voice of God. They've always spoken to me, and it's like, it's time for you to write your book. And when I started writing my book, it was like all this pain, all this trauma, all this suffering that I had suppressed for so many years, it started becoming unpacked and coming out of me, and it just started flowing. And the more I wrote the book, the less pressure and the less weight I felt on my body, my mind, and my soul. And it just felt like therapeutic. So I had to put it out there. So that was the inspiration behind it, because like I said, had I not written that book, I really feel like maybe because I was suppressing so much of that pain and that trauma, I think I would have stroked out. I think I would have died. I think I would have lost my mind at least. And I would have questioned. But because I wrote the book, it changed my life.
Yeah, you mentioned like not being here if you didn't write the book. And I think for a lot of men, we struggle with that emotional part, right? That communicative being of just stating what's on our heart, right? Writing the book for you had to be a form of therapy, because I know when I wrote mine, it was for me, right? It's kind of releasing these things and letting it go, or just trying to find some method to move on with my life. But for you, how did that healing continue even after you wrote the book?
And I say this all the time, like my book was my surgery, the surgery that I needed. It's almost like you can get shot and you have to have surgery to remove the bullet, but you still have to have your rehab afterwards, because there is something that you might have fragments left in. There's still a wound that needs to be closed. There are other things that you might even find out in your body because you had surgery on something. You never seen somebody because they're having issues with something, and then they go in and get that fixed, and while they're in there, they check and you realize oh, he's got this, and that going on with him. And if he wouldn't have gotten this checked out, he would have died. So that's what it was for me. So when I wrote my book, I felt like I had this sense of pressure that was relieved and released from my body, but at the same time, also felt like there were other things that I needed to unpack. And so I started going to therapy. I realized that even though I had gotten rid of some of the things that I had suppressed for so many years, there were so many things that's still going on to this day that's still going on in this world now.
Yes.
That I can talk about. And so that's why it's made me a better person. It's made me just, I'm not claiming to have wings on, but at the same time, it's made me walk into my manhood, because for the longest time, until I wrote the book, I was still a boy pretending to be a man. But started growing up, I started putting away some of the childish things. Now, I still have fun. I still do some childish stuff every now and then. I'm not perfect, like I said, but at the same time, it made me realize why I was doing what I was doing. It made me realize, okay, well, with this and this form of therapy, I can figure out the why, and I can correct my problem so I don't affect myself or the people around.
Yeah. You mentioned like these people around you. And for me, I think community is such a big thing where you're talking about healing and what your life should look like and be like when you have that village. As a person who lives on the East Coast, like I do, like lived in New York City, why do you feel like we are lacking that sense of community? And what do we do as a generation to bring it back?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that, because I think hopefully it's changing a little bit now. I think more and more people are not just going into mental health and understanding therapy, but they're embracing therapy. And that's the issue. Sometimes you can go and see a therapist and not fully embrace it because you don't feel like anything is wrong. Once you embrace it, you let go and you realize, okay, I'm here to help myself, and it's not about anybody else. That's why I always tell couples, like if they're talking about going to marriage counseling, which I always commend, if you're going to marriage counseling, whatever, even before you start having problems, make sure you have your separate counseling first, because you got to work on yourself before you come together and try and fix some things. Because what happens is you start to blame yourself. But how we can work each other out when it comes to our community is like you have to have a trusted safe space. You have to have somebody that you can talk to. For me, it was my therapist. For me, it's my best friend. I got a good friend of mine named JR, who I can talk to. And I'm getting him into therapy now because he's seen the work that I put into. But there are other men that I know, or other people that I know, that I can go and talk to and say, hey, I'm not having a good day today. Whereas before, we always had these paradigms, especially as Black men, that we couldn't share our emotions, that we couldn't share our feelings, that you get called certain names. You know what I'm saying? If you share those emotions, or you're being emotional or whatever, there's a difference between being emotional and being the B word or whatever a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you start complaining for the sake of complaining, not trying to do anything about it, yeah, you can be called that. But at the same time, if you're talking about you're having a bad day, you need to have somebody listen, and hopefully they will listen, and you need to do something about it. And that's where therapy comes in. So I always say it's good for us as Black people to encourage each other to go to therapy, or to continue to go to therapy, so that we can help one another become a better people. Because I don't really feel like we will move ahead as a people until we start getting our minds, our bodies, and our spirits right, and our emotions right. So that's where it starts, man. So yeah.
I agree. You've worked on various platforms, television, internet, and radio. How do you adapt your hosting style to each medium? And what do you find most rewarding about working across different platforms?
Because I get bored easily. That's one thing I like. I gotta switch it up, man. I like doing radio. The reason I like doing radio is because it's so loose. It's so I can truly be myself. I ain't got to worry about the way I look, anything like that. I can just go in there, and I think you really uncover the true essence of who you are when you do radio. It is something that's different about radio. TV, of course, you're concerned about your look, how you're sitting, how your slouch was in front of you, and all that type of stuff, a lot of distractions, whatever, which is great, but I love it. But I know how to adjust to each one of them, and I love each one of them. I love every medium. I love doing podcasts now. I love doing comedy. I love doing sports. I love doing news. I love talking politics. I love talking about mental health. I love that. I feel like it's part of my purpose. So anything on these different mediums, whatever I'm doing, I think it's gratifying for me. It just keeps me on my toes because it's different. And like I said, I get bored easily. And then plus, I think it's what's kept me in this business for so long, because the best description that's on my resume is versatile. You know, when you see my resume, you see my bio, it says a versatile. And I don't even consider myself a sportscaster anymore. I consider myself a broadcaster because I feel like anything I do is on a broad spectrum.
You know, you got kids, and how do we tell our children about following their dreams, even if it makes the parents uncomfortable?
Well, hopefully it's not something that makes you so uncomfortable, because the only thing I think for me, and I can only answer for me, I think is it will make me uncomfortable if they're doing something illegal, and I won't condone that. You know what I mean? I won't condone something illegal or immoral, anything like that, or something that's going to endanger them or someone else. But if you do something like, if all of a sudden, you know, my daughter told me she's a singer, she quit college, you know what I mean, in her junior year, in the middle of her junior year. And I'm the person that always encourages people, hey, follow your dreams, your goals. Sometimes college ain't for everybody. Like I didn't go to college. I was in the Air Force. I was in the military, 6 years in the military, whatever. Turned out for me, you got to go down your different path. So I always tell parents, or tell, you know, myself when it comes to my kids, like, as long as my kids are happy, as long as my kids being productive citizens in society, as long as they're taking care of themselves and they're not harming anybody and they're making no money or whatnot, and they don't have to rely on anybody, and they know their worth in anything they do, and they're passionate about anything they do, go for it. You got to be happy. You got to have joy. I chose this profession because it brings me a lot of joy. It adds to my happiness. I already have a lot of happiness, but it adds to my happiness and it adds to my joy. When I get up and I go and do my job, I love going to work. And I've been doing it for 29 years, and I can't wait for the next 20 years, because I know it's going to take me to a different height, but I love my job. So when you get to a point that you love your job and you love doing what you're doing, man, that's to me that's your destiny. That's your purpose. And that's what God has.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you mentioned something earlier about like a resume, right? And it being filled with all of the things that you've done that you had to show up for. We're in a time right now where technology has become so powerful, where there are certain people who don't feel like they have to do the work, right? Or they feel like they can skip parts of the process to get to a place. What do you say to those aspiring journalists, you know, aspiring broadcasters who want to get into this, but don't want to feel like they have to go through the processes?
I think if you don't go through the process, you're not going to get your, how can I put this? You're not going to get your skin. And when I say your skin, it's like when you talk about getting skin in the game, you're not going to get the respect you're not going to last, because something else is going to replace you if you're not going through the process. You got to know the basics, in my opinion, in order to be able to do your work. You know, I embrace technology, don't get me wrong. If I find a way that, you know, I can use AI in a certain way to help me out, I'll do it. But at the same time, it has to be my feelings. It's got to be my emotions. It's got to be my creativity. God made machines, but he made humans better, in my opinion, right? Because humans, they made the machines, right? So we must be brilliant. We must be brilliant that we made something that's so brilliant that some people feel like can replace us. So if God gave you this gift, that's something that God can't put personality. He can't put, feeling or emotions. He can't put desire. He can't put passion. He can't put hunger to a machine. That's all in you. That's in your. So when I tell kids to go out there and get it, man, go out there and get it. Make money, good, but also get that skin. Go out there and learn how to do the basics, and not just your job, but do other people's jobs as well, so that you can become versatile, so that you can stay in it when other people are saying, hey, well, we don't need this role anymore. Well, that's not my only skill set. I got 8 skill sets over here where I can always stay employed no matter what you try to do.
I love this so much. And I want to say this. So Mike Hill, I read about at some point in his life, was working at a hot dog stand by Yankee Stadium, right? And I say that because I think people don't understand when I say work and ethic and showing up every time. If you could have a conversation with that Mike Hill, the person who was searching or looking for identity, the person who was hungry but may not have always had access, what conversations would you have with him?
Okay, so I worked at Yankee Stadium selling some hot dogs inside the stadium, but then I also had a terrible job inside the stadium, sweeping the stadium. I mean, dirtiest job I've ever had in my life. I've also worked in a warehouse, putting furniture on top of cars and loading it, whatever. So I've had some hard jobs, even at an early age, 16, 17 years old. But the one job that stood out to me, and this is to answer your question, the one job that stood out to me was when I was about 14 years old and I was helping my dad who worked for the water company. I literally had to help him dig a ditch. Not with he had a backhoe, but we had to get in there with shovels and go in there and get rocks and chip hammers. I'm talking about that was the hardest job I've ever had in my life. And I remember doing that for like 5 days straight, paid good money. I think good money for a 14-year-old, like 100 whatever. But I was happy with that. It was the hardest labor I've done in my life. I did that for 5. I remember my grandmother coming to me and she said, "Baby, this ain't for you. This ain't what this you ain't made for this. Like, this is use your mind, use your ability or whatever." So talking to them, talking to that younger version of myself, it was about, man, I want to make a lot of money. But if I can talk to I would say, man, find your peace, find your happiness, and the money will come. If you find your happiness and you find your passion, the money will come. And eventually came around, I was like, you know what? Like I said, I wanted to play sports. I'm like, well, I can still be passionate about sports and do it this way and get in the journalism. I'm happy doing this. This brings me peace. And it made me a lot of money over the years. And I'm still a lot of money. So I would tell that person at a younger age to find that peace, find that happiness, find your joy and the passion, and it'll set you up. So patience is always key, man. It's like God's gonna give you what He wants to give you at His time. You can work hard for it. In the meantime, continue to prepare for it. But to this day, I've had to learn a lot of patience because there are a lot of things I want in my career I haven't gotten yet. That I'm patient and I know eventually I'm going to get it. But in the meantime, I'm going to prepare for it.
Prepare for it, right? So you're ready when it comes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about goals, right? What goals are you setting for the new year? What is your 2024 going to look like?
I'm gonna have my own talk show. I'm gonna have my own talk show on a major platform. I am going to have a talk show on a major platform with great producers, with a lot of promotion. It's going to be a major broadcast. I mean, people say it's funny how this works when it comes to manifestation. Some people say, don't tell people your dreams, don't tell people because there's a lot of evil spirits. I'm protected, brother. I'm protected. I'm going to manifest this and I'm going to tell people so that, you know what, when it happens, you can, and I'm giving all glory to God. And I'm saying God has set me up because there's something inside of me that's a fire that's burning inside of me that I know that I have not reached 50% of my capabilities. And I know that there's much more I'm going to do. So when I say that, I know it's going to happen. So when I do it, you'll look, it's like, Mike said he's going to do that. And I'm going to give all the honor, all the glory to God because I know he. So I'm going to have that. And I'm going to have my production company putting out these things. A lot of stuff I'll be doing is going to be behind the scenes. And you're not even going to know. You just see Thrill of Entertainment as the executive producer, from documentaries to reality shows to other unscripted shows and ideas I have out there. So yeah, I want to do it all. I don't want to even.
Man, I just thank you for being a source of inspiration for myself. You know, I look. There's certain people who I look at and I just know they've walked so that I could walk too. And you, my man, have been one of them. I thank you for just being transparent and opening up and taking time to be with me. What do you have coming up that we can support, and how can the people follow you?
Thanks for having me. First of all, man, I appreciate it once again. I'm on Fox Sports. I'm on Fox. I'm doing college football throughout the college football season. So you can catch me every Saturday on Fox Network and FS1. I'm doing college basketball as well when that comes up. I do Brother from Another on the Peacock Network now. Just started doing that about a week ago. Filling on Rich Eisen show. I just do a lot of different things. I'm on Mike Checks on Instagram. My IG handle is at It's Mike Hill, ITS Mike Hill on Instagram and on Twitter. I do that every Monday, try and send out that source of inspiration and things that I've gone through. And like I said, man, there's so many other things coming on. It's just the beginning for Mike. Even though I've been 29 years in the game, this is just the beginning. I can't wait to see what happens over the next 20 years. I'm excited
man,
about
we are here to support you for 29 more. Everybody, this is my brother Mike Hill. Please make sure you are following him just because I said so. Do you hear me? I love you all for tuning in. Mike Hill, thank you for being another brother. And you're always welcome back here on One with Courtney Starks. I love you for watching, y'all. Have a good one.
Thank you, brother.